Yeah, I'm a little weathered. But excited to have you here, Steve. And I love your energy, and I love that you just took it to video, so I get to see your snippets every day. So a little introduction for.
Well, do you want, are we rolling now or what?
Yeah, we're rolling now.
Let's roll it, baby. Okay.
Let's roll. Let's do it. So a little introduction for my audience, sales intersection audience. Steve is the co-founder
That's good.
of ExecVision, joining me today. In 2015, you started ExecVision, and your co-founder, David Stillman, created the solution. And it's a platform, right, built to turn the gold mine of customer conversations into actionable insights that drive behavior change and positively impact business outcomes, mostly addressing the insights to performance gap, or how insights transform a rep's performance or lack thereof, if only using artificial intelligence or software alone. Is that about right?
Wow. Yeah, look at you. You want a job? You got it. You nailed it.
Yeah.
I'll translate that into English. Here's what it is. Most people record most customer-facing conversations these days. It doesn't matter if it's a Zoom like we're on, if it's an unscheduled call and a dialing technology like a Dial Source, a Sales Loft and Outreach, that kind of thing. So most people record, but then they do very little, if anything, with the recordings. And you think about it, there's like all kinds of information, intelligence in those calls. And then there's also coaching opportunities or coachable moments for those reps. And coachable moments are like shooting stars. They come and they go, they disappear. So the whole thing about the performance gap is most sales leaders that we talk to and managers, they know where their teams need to improve. They have a pretty good sense. And if they have conversation analytics, they have even more. But what they don't have is a way to get them there. So how do I actually then get my rep who is lousy at discovery to then be good at discovery? How do you take that person through that change management process and then actually measure the coaching to see if it's working? That's what we mean by insights to performance gap. I'm just sort of translating marketing speak.
Let's take a gong, for example.
Right? We're right there with Gong. That's our arch rival. You nailed it.
Yeah. So I bet a speed bump would be convincing the manager that you can do a better job coaching the team, or taking the insights and transforming those into actionable insights.
It's funny you bring that up. So tons of people use Gong, right? And what we're starting to see is a lot of people who are using Gong, you come back to them and you say, hey, what are you doing now that you have some data about what's happening in your conversations and your sales calls? What are you doing with that data? And then most of them go, nothing. Some of them report on it to the board. People like looking at pictures, but then you say, okay, great. Now, how are you taking that data and using it to help your reps get better? And for the most part, we start hearing things like, well, I actually use Google Sheets for that.
Yeah.
I have a process for managing that's, analog in some cases on paper.
Yeah.
So what we're getting at here is like, when it comes to getting your reps better, how do you change the performance and the behavior of the reps so that they follow your behavioral framework? That's what we do. That's what's different about us and Gong. We're right in the same category though.
And I've seen a video, I forget what it was, but you say what really irks you is there's a manager that comes in, he or she is there for 2 or 3 years. They have a methodology going, they're out, a new one comes in and they're supposed to learn a different, go from Buddhist to Catholic, I think is what you said. But isn't that a little bit of what you do? You come in, you
No. Actually, to the contrary. So I've always abided by the principle, and I really actually got this from Bob Perkins, who of course gets it from Stephen Covey, I believe, the 7 Habits. First, seek to understand, then be understood. So the first thing that I want to do, it's just like the doctors with the Hippocratic Oath. First, do no harm. First thing when we're working with a customer is we look at what they're doing today and we find out what's working and we document it. What's the tribal knowledge that's on the floor right now? Because a lot of times they haven't documented it. And when we document it, we actually document it in the form of scorecards, call review sheets in the ExecVision software. So now their sales process is translated into.
And I heard you say that one thing that I feel like I didn't quite agree with was, there's a different sales methodology every week, right? There's a different flavor each week. I think for me, it's like, first of all, you don't want to sound like you just came out of a sales training, and a Sandler sales trainer. Everyone's talking about what keeps you up at night, something like that, right?
Yeah.
I think you need to know them all and know how to pivot and know which one to use. I saw your 10 best sales books ever, that you've read that affected you most. And for me, the one that stuck out most is the psychology of sales. Technology changes quickly. The work culture changes quickly, as we've seen here at the pandemic. Everyone's remote, but the psychology of people doesn't change. So
Well
you got to
said.
know those methodologies a little bit. But you gotta go into a room of now it's what 5.4 people on average making the decision.
Yeah,
You gotta know
lately
how to.
CEB now they spun off that research, and I think it's part of Challenger's research, but who knows? It might be part of Gartner, but I think it's now 6.3. But it depends. Look, it depends on what you're selling and who you're selling to. I had a customer on the phone this week, and they have on average 2, and they mean it. There are 2. It's the controller and the CFO. That's pretty much it. I kind of illustrated, look, sometimes the economic buyer is I define it the Miller Hyman way. It's the senior most person who can sign. They can say no, but they can't say, or sorry, they have to approve the funding. So they have to approve of releasing the money, the senior most person that approves releasing the money. I made an argument that, look, I think at a lot of these companies, your CEO or your chairman or chairwoman is the economic buyer, not the CFO. And they kind of agreed. They hadn't really thought of that. But then for others, like you're saying, it's like 20. I mean, look, a lot of times when we sell ExecVision, we got information security people to deal with. Sometimes HR comes in because they're worried about call recording. We got the privacy people. We got the Salesforce admin. We got the sales managers. Sometimes there's a rep who, believe it or not, is a highly influential member of the buying group. So anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt, but to clarify, it depends. But keep going. You're right.
Yeah, and given the dark funnel, right, that a lot of these people are going, 60-70% of the sales process, the evaluation process, without reaching out to the sales team, those influencers have already influenced. And 10, 15 years ago, I was being taught the most important part of the sales process is discovery, right? And now if they're reaching out to me 70% of the time, there's a lot of account-based marketing companies that say they can get them at 15% or something like that. But discovery's already been kind of done. So what do you, Mike, I wanted to ask you, how do you coach, or what do you say to that, how does that change the discovery strategy, given that they feel like they've already done the discovery,
Yeah, and that's the thing. The best salespeople can get the buying group, which in the Challenger customer, they talk about the dysfunctional buying group. I love that term, dysfunctional buyer group. That is so perfect. I've learned more about my selling. I've learned more about sales by watching our companies that I founded buy things, and it's messed up. It's like a dysfunctional family. It really is. So I love that dysfunctional buyer group. The sales rep that gets the dysfunctional buyer group to agree on what they're trying to fix, accomplish, or avoid, and then the definition of success, and then the evaluation criteria is the one that wins. Now, your point is, well, wait a minute, the buyers are racing ahead, they're evaluating options. Again, it depends on what you're selling and who you're selling to. Let's pretend for a minute you're selling like a $20,000, $100,000 solution, tech and or something else, which is a lot of people. You got to get the buyer to slow down. You got to back the buyer up. But can you get on that call and just start doing discovery? In many cases, you can't. Because if you just jump in there and start doing discovery, they don't want the 21 questions. Yeah. We've already been down that path. So I talked about this with my friend Joe Caprio. He, funny enough, used to work at Chorus, one of our other competitors at ExecVision. He was their VP of sales. He's now at a company called Reprise, or Reprise, you might say. And we talked about that challenge of what is it first? It's chicken and egg. Do you do discovery first? Do you do demo first? And the solution that I love comes from Richard Harris. This is my favorite. I think I did a video tip on this. Richard Harris, he says in the beginning, hey, Eric, we can do this one of two ways. One is I got some questions for you, and then I can tailor the demo, make it a better use of your time. Two, I'm sure you might want to just see what we're up to first. You want to just take a look at what we're doing first, and then we can start the discussion about what you're trying to accomplish. Or do you mind if I ask you a few questions? And you let the buyer choose.
You need to know the product. You need to know when to shut up. You need to know, how to deal with the analytics person, the sales guy, the marketing person, the CFO, right? All of them. So It's a lot tougher than you think, especially in that situation. When being no and pushing back might do you some good. I had some experience in the channel sales arena. Actually, I had Jay McBain is one of my guests, the principal analyst over at Forrester, who's just, he's like Goodwill Hunting, man, on channel, the channels.
Yeah, he's the old I think Serious Decisions analyst, and then Forrest acquired them, I think.
Yeah,
yeah, right. I like Jay. I know Jay. Yeah.
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm not going to try to out Jay when it comes to channel. I know where my limitations are.
Oh man, great guest. Yeah, if you want to know something about channel, he's the guy to ask. But channel sales, it seems like I haven't seen much written by you guys at ExecVision about channel sales, and it seems like a great opportunity because they're so disconnected from the vendor, that the vendor, they're like, first they want to give them an incentive to sell their product over a competitor's product. They want them to have the latest, most relevant messaging, the most effective messaging, so they can have the most effective conversations. And to do that globally, we're talking about Toshiba or Dell or Cisco. Most of the sales globally are inside sales. 65% or something like that are inside sales. Have you guys thought about working the channel, or is that just kind of?
It's a great question. It's a great question. So we do. Do we have any? I'm trying to remember if we have any channel companies like the CDWs or Insights as customers. I don't think we do yet, although we have a lot of outsourcing companies. But we have a lot of customers that sell through channel partners, and they have large inside sales organizations that previously were in the same location before coronavirus. Now they all work from home. And, the thing that I find about channel, you've also inspired. Next week, I'm going to do a couple of tip of the days on channel sales. So thanks for that, Eric. The thing that I find about channel, there's a couple things. So one, if you work for the OEM, for the maker of the technology, which is then sold through the VARs, the value-added resellers, or other channel partners. So you're not selling directly anymore. And it's very difficult because you lose control of the narrative. You can't do some of the basics of sales, blocking and tackling of sales process and aligning to the buyer. It's hard. So there's a couple things. The first thing is give a lead to get a lead. That business is highly predicated on, I find, two things. One, just simply the cost of your solution and your capabilities relative to your competitor. And as an average sales rep, you don't have a whole lot of, you can't really pull that lever. It's not like you can say, oh yeah, we're going to give you guys an even bigger discount, because those channel prices are pre-negotiated. And then what are called the MDS, or the market direct funds, in many cases are pre-negotiated, or the rebates and the things like that. Yeah. So the average sales rep can't do a whole lot there except for try to go to bat for the channel partner. Yeah. The other thing a channel salesperson can do is give a lead to get a lead, which is just the ultimate for me. That, because it's a relationship thing. That's the second one. So it's price driven and solution driven, and then it's a relationship thing. And the reality is, if your widget and Dell's widget, I'm making this up, HPE's and Dell's are roughly the same, and not really all that different, their storage, whatever, then which one is the channel partner going to go with? They're going to go with the one that either is the easiest for them to sell to the end user customer because it's the right combination of price and everything, the one that makes them the most money, or the one that they have the better relationship with the rep.
For time, I have a lot of different questions, and I'm extremely curious your answers here. But a lot of my guests, I can't imagine them being in any other any other field than sales. Jay McBain, Larry Levine, Dale Dupree, all these folks, Morgan Ingram. Was there ever a time that you had was there a close second for a career that you considered, or was it always sales?
Well, I'll give you something funny. I think I've talked about this on a lot before, but I was going to be an investment banker, couldn't get a job. So the only reason I'm in sales at all is I couldn't get a job, and everyone I went to undergrad with got a job. My backup plan of sales didn't work out, which I came to love. At first I was failing, but then through testing and measurement, I came to love it and seeing what was working. and applying. I was going to go work for my family business, which is in septic tanks, believe it or not, like precast concrete products. And here's another little factoid that no one's ever heard. I don't think I've ever said this on a webinar or podcast. I applied for Teach for America. I was interested in that for a while, and I got shot down. I didn't even get an interview for Teach for America. And I think this is, I'm Catholic, right? So that's just who I am. I think it's God's way of sort of saying you're supposed to be in sales, because I love it. I mean, now in retrospect, I would have been a lousy investment banker. I would have been a lousy teacher. Like, I'm where I'm supposed to be. But how the heck do you know that as a college grad with 60,000 in school loans? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you can tell. I mean, you got the energy for it. That's so. Just a couple more questions. I'm gonna turn that around on you. What do you think is most controversial or arguable that you bring to the sales world that people are like, that's one thing I just don't, I don't agree with Steve on.
Something that we don't do that people would disagree with me on.
That you do.
That we do.
But people say that's.
I'll give you one. I'll give you one that some people might not necessarily like, but it works. We have people on LinkedIn as me that send messages as me. We've tested it. The effectiveness of sending the same exact message when it comes from me versus sending it as somebody else on LinkedIn is dramatically different. I don't have time to sit there and send messages on LinkedIn all day. And I don't want to use one of those automated solutions that just pumps out spam, because we know that doesn't work either. So sometimes when you're on LinkedIn and you message me, it's me, and sometimes it's not.
That is you in the video.
If it's important, it gets back to me. And I do look at it sometimes. So people might say, "Oh, that's unethical. That's not actually you." It's not a bot or anything. It's not like it's a.
Well, you can't be in 100 places at the same time, and you're busy. So last question, what if I had a bit of a script today, but what would you, if you're leading a podcast, or you had the say of what we talked about today, what's fascinating to you today? What excites you in the sales world? What
excites me in the sales world? Let's think about that. Boy, I'd like to see what role VR would play. Obviously, AI is the easy answer, but I'm not buying as much as other people are. I'm buying the AI can sell cheap, inexpensive stuff. I am not buying that AI is going to do enterprise sales and the kind of, it can probably do pieces. I love the idea of, especially if we're in a more of a socially distanced world in the future, of VR and other methods for, what's the next way for people to really feel like they're near each other when they're not. I saw some really cool technology. I'll shout them out, from this company called, what the hell are they called? They're called GDS. They were like a global events company. So they used to put on these in-person events where you'd have like a room full of chief sales officers, and we would pay to go be in the room. And, really virtual conferences, let's just call it spade a spade, sort of suck. But they are leveraging this incredible technology by this company in Europe called Faber, F-A-B-E-R, that I'll send here so you can put it into the show notes. I'll put it in the chat. That is almost makes your participants in a virtual event feel like they're in the event. I think there's a lot of stuff like that. That's exciting for me, as opposed to just having the data.
Yeah. Well, hey, Steve, I really appreciate you being on the show today. Is there anything you want to promote or tell?
Connect with me on LinkedIn. I got these 1-minute tips. They're video tips. They're totally free. I do them. They're real. They're all me.
I've seen
actually, where that comes from is we had someone before that was a marketer on our marketing team that used to be logged in as me, posting as me, and she was better at being me than me. And then our marketing director said, "Steve, you got to take over your own social media." And I'm like, "How the hell am I going to do that?" And I said, it was necessity is the mother of invention. The only time I have to do it is when I'm running in the morning. So every morning when I go running, I stop, because my brain is working when I'm running. It's just kind of oxygenated. I think of something, I stop, I pull out the camera, I do it. I mean, that's mostly what happens.
I think it's effective because it's natural. It's not like you're like sitting with a blazer on and in your family room. So I always get a kick out of it, and I think that I get a lot of value from. So what I'll do is I'm gonna do a final cut, because I realize there's a lot of noise out there, so no one's gonna watch a 30-minute podcast. So I do kind of a highlight reel. about 10 minutes. I'll send to you before I put it on social. Feel free to promote it as well.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely, as soon as you put it out, put me on it. I'll post.
Oh, great. Okay. Well,
Yep.
I really enjoyed the conversation today, Steve, and hopefully, we'll cross paths
Yeah.
again
And
soon.
Eric, actually, something that's important to know, you can even put this in the show.
Yeah.
So when you go on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
it used to be that it was better to have one post and then have everybody share the same post. LinkedIn changed their algorithm. It's actually better to have one post that people comment on and everything, and you pump that up. So if you do a post and I do a post, and if they're separate, it actually performs better. It'll get way more views. If I just take your post and share it, it gets piddly. It gets like a few hundred. If I do a direct post, it usually gets
Oh, perfect.
one to 10,000.
Okay.
So you should know that about the LinkedIn algorithm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll have it to you probably Friday or Monday.
Sounds good, man. Take care.
All right. Take care.
Okay, bye.